I'm thankful as well. I want to recognize Elder Raymond. I don't know where he is. He left me. He's been amongst you.
There he is.
I know you have many from outside the territories of Elsipogtog. I see this as a coming together of peoples. And I was being asked what my views were of what was going on. And I made it clear that, first of all, what my role is. I'm not the Indian Prime Minister. I don't have and would not want, nor would I seek, the authority to take decisions on behalf of a peoples. Because you see, I too come from a home. I explained in my language, the Nuu-chah-nulth territories. A house that is my village off the west coast of Vancouver Island. And it's there recently that an old growth tree spoke. That tree said, I am the last of my kind. We know these stories to be true. Each of our nations has stories about our relationship with the living world around us. And I thank you for having the young ones here, that they might as well hear you reaching out and listening to the living world around you. Reaching out for relationships in a place in this country where treaties were made a long time ago, saying that we should live in a spirit of peace and friendship and respect that the pre-existing laws and rights of the people of Elsipogtog, the people of the Atlantic, Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, pre-existed the establishment of Canada and the rolling in of new laws, laws that still apply to this very day, that attempt to overstep the title and rights and treaty rights of Indigenous peoples of these lands. But thankfully we now have the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And I will be working with the Chief to make a statement that stands firm in those expressions of treaty rights and title and rights, that you have the right to free, prior, and informed consent over what happens in your territory. So I may be only 5'4", but I'll stand as tall as I can with you to ensure that other governments who would attempt to impose regulations, corporations who would seek to use that space to attempt to overstep what it is the vision of the people here is, that we will stand firm with you in full support to say no to fracking, no to development that is not in the vision that you would see for future generations. I was just talking to Tegan.
All right.
Tegan is 10 years old. He didn't have to tell me, but I could see on his face he feels comfortable. He is of a nation that is in a period of resurgence. You see, they built museums because they thought we wouldn't still be here to stand up for each other, for our language, for their culture, and for the water and the environment and the land that we've inherited from the ancestors that we're borrowing from future generations. That's not just a Mi'kmaq or Indigenous or First Nations challenge. That's a challenge for the people of New Brunswick, the challenge for the people of the Atlantic who've come to settle here. It's a challenge for Canadians. But I'm here to stand with you to say Indigenous peoples have something to offer the world, to return to a place of harmony and balance. That which our people knew over the course of so long. We can return. We can grab the very best of that vision. In fact, more than that, we have inherited an obligation. Coming from Elsipogtog, you have an incredibly powerful heritage that goes a long ways back of proud peoples speaking their languages and doing their ceremony and standing up for each other. This very country that is now, the irony that this is Canada Day. Many are celebrating the existence of a country that, as I stand here, I can tell you with great assuredness, through the Department of Justice, they don't recognize us as a peoples. And I use the S on purpose. Because if you're recognized as a peoples, you have pre-existing law and rights. You have a history. We still have to challenge the governments. Over 40 court cases we win. We have 100 title and right court cases that clog up courts on an annual basis. We're before the Canadian Human Rights Commission challenging on child welfare funding, and we go to the United Nations. But there are times when you need to stand up, step forward, and be out on the land. And that's what you are all doing here today. I congratulate and thank you for that courage to stand up with each other. Recognize that we have inherited these obligations and we will not let them go. We believe firmly in who we are and where we come from. and I, in my role as National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, will be proud to make a public statement with Chief Sauk. We've had this conversation here and we've agreed, along with council who were present, I know others were not all here, but that you're standing firmly, supporting your people, knowing that that's what leadership is about. It's not about taking unilateral decisions the way we've experienced from outside governments. It's about supporting and listening to the people. So thank you for inviting us here into your circle today. My wife Nancy and I were riding the Iron Horse on this particular trip. And it's an honor to be here. We've spoken about a return visit on another time. But I know that in your hearts, you stand together. When you have one particular branch, it can be broken. Even a couple, not that hard. But if you stand together, that creates a bunch that simply cannot be broken. That's the power of the people coming together. Very honored to stand here by your side, supporting the effort that you've undertaken. And I look forward to making that formal public statement within the next day with the chief. We just got to get organized in order to do that. We're going to need some support and advice about what it is that we're going to express publicly. I want to make sure, Chief, that it is of satisfaction to the challenges that we have. And even if successful, which we expect to be, that doesn't mean that we're done. We are on a long journey for justice and recognition of our title and rights. We're reaching out to Canadians to say you are and we are all treaty people. It's time that we came together. You did not write or create the Indian Act nor the legacy of the Indian residential schools, nor did I or this council or anyone here gathered. But together we can do something about it. I saw the memorial with the Sundance Chief explaining to me and expressing the very powerful statement of that residential school section that is near the ceremonial grounds. They said we wouldn't be here as Indigenous peoples. We are on the comeback trail. We are rising up. It was always understood that the power of ceremony would see us through to this day that we have here today. Thank you for the warm welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to stand in solidarity and support with your effort. Wilali.
Within the next few days, we're going to have that statement ready. And
Here you go, Aaron.
always.
Oh, there's something on your belly.
All right.